Career transitions can feel overwhelming, whether you're re entering the workforce, pivoting to a new industry, or figuring out what's next after a job loss. The questions start piling up. Where do I start? What do employers want to know? How do I stand out? These questions can be intimidating, but they can also be powerful opportunities to realign your career with your strengths, values, and goals.
Welcome to the Transition Blueprint.
In today's episode, we're pulling back the curtain on career transitions with insights from Don Hendricks, founder of FM Talent Source, who has helped thousands of professionals successfully land impactful roles. Whether you're navigating a layoff or considering a career shift, this episode delivers practical, behind the scenes insights from someone with over 20 years of talent management and recruiting experience. If you are preparing for a transition, recovering from one, or supporting someone who's making a move, you're in the right place. Today's episode might just give you the insight and tools to take control and design a transition blueprint. Don, welcome to the Transition
Yeah.
Blueprint.
Thank you. Thank you.
So glad to have you here. I know that you've built an award-winning consulting firm with over 20 plus years providing talent to government agencies. What was the pivotal moment for you that made you realize that you needed to transition from employee to entrepreneur? So let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah. So I have to first say I am third generation entrepreneur. So I feel like some of this is in my blood. But the real pivotal moment for me was having a passion for a need that I saw in the marketplace, feeling like I could actually solve that need. So I think at its core, that's what entrepreneurship is, seeing a need and being able to fill that need. For us, we really wanted to be bridge builders for people in ways that we weren't necessarily seeing it. Um, of course, I was dealing with other recruiting companies, and I felt like they were just throwing something and hoping something would stick, but not really taking my specific needs into view and coming up with a solution for that and actually seeing it through to completion. So that's really what we wanted to be able to do. And I think on the other side of that, for the candidates, I felt like a lot of times when I was connecting with people, there were things that if someone had just taken the moment to share some feedback with them, could have helped them go from where they are to where they want to be. And being on the corporate side didn't allow me to provide that kind of in-depth consulting. And so we do that with the candidates that we engage with. We provide them with the insights that they need to help them be and show up as the best versions of themselves.
So I love that you said that. That was a question I was going to ask later on, but let me just push it up. So, what are some of these things that you would see, your insights from when you were in corporate recruiting, where if that person had just gotten that little bit of information, that
Yeah.
little tip that would make a difference? What were some of those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of things. I think how people show up and present themselves. Um, I think, there's this expression, you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression. And so just how you show up, the attire, how you're presenting yourself so that you're not being a distraction against them assessing your skill set. Right. So just making sure that you're professional, not being too over the top. And this is not saying I don't want you to be your authentic self, but I'm also saying that this is a competitive landscape and people. And so it is important that you find a happy medium in between that. I think the other things are just how you're presenting your resume. I mean, often this is just your first entry into the door. And so if you don't take the time to be customized and tailored in how you are speaking to your skill set, I think a lot of times people will just throw in all these words. They want to sound a certain way, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what you're talking about, right? And so recruiters have just a short period of time to review resumes. So you need to be very specific, clear, use my language. So we give you job descriptions so you know what we're looking for. So I think it is in those candidates' best interest to try to reframe the resume and tailor it to what I'm looking for. So those are things that we coach people on so that they can kind of start to move through the process or at least not get eliminated in the first rounds.
I love.
Oh, but I can't hear you. Oh, Lord.
Can you hear me now? Hold on.
Yeah.
So you said something interesting about resumes. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
So what are some common mistakes you see on resumes that immediately turn recruiters off?
Yeah, they're just not specific. They're not clear. I mean, a lot of times I think people use what I call this dense language. They're saying a whole lot of nothing. And so I like for people to be clear in what they actually accomplished. What are the results that you accomplished? What is it that you're looking to do? Right. And I also think that you should use the position description for the opportunity that you're interested in and tailor your resume language to use some of those keywords so that whomever is reviewing the resume, they get it. Because if you think that a recruiter who has a limited amount of time is going to be able to make assumptions and inferences about you, I do think that that is a mistake, a misnomer. They're just gonna move to the next
Mm.
thing.
So are recruiters even still looking at resumes these days, or has that been outsourced to AI?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that AI does a lot of the first cut, but we do have to look at the resumes. Our team does have to look at the resumes because we're doing we've got to do a screen. We've got to pre-screen. So they have to understand what they're looking at. But I think your point is valid. It's got to get through a lot of our tools that are doing some of the initial work for us. And again, if you don't have and you're not using the things that AI can recognize or that is aligning with that position description, you're going to get screened out.
Or how to use AI to help you figure out how to not get screened
Right.
out, and what are the things that
Exactly.
you should be putting on your resume. So, Don, what would be a nice little checklist for what makes a resume stand out in a crowded job market? As a recruiter, you see tons that come across. What are the ones that stand out the most to you? So, if someone is listening to this conversation, they can go and look at their resume and be like, oh my gosh, I got this right, don't have that right, need to fix this. What would that look
Yeah.
like, that quick little checklist?
Yep. So I think a really quick and easy one is just a review for typos. I will tell you, and I may be a little different. I mean, I don't review resumes unless it's a job that I'm actually hiring for any longer, but I have been my career started as a recruiter and um my perspective on this is if you can't get your document right as you are representing yourself, it gives me limited confidence in how you are going to approach our customer or us as an actual employer. So that is my personal bias, but I know others that feel the same way. So get the typos out. There's so many different ways and resources to check your grammar and your spelling. The other thing, I still like a summary. I like for you to tell me what it is that you have done and what you're interested in. So, giving me kind of that high level overview of what those things are. I love to see what you have accomplished in a quantifiable, metrics driven way. I think that people make a lot of assumptions. And I know I've said it, but I think people want the recruiters to do the heavy lift. And so my recommendation is be specific around what you want people to take away. Don't leave it to our imagination. Tell us what you have done and how that is going to support the work that you are interested in or the work that we are recruiting for. Those are the immediate things that I believe folks should, that'll get you on the right path.
So let's go back to the question about typo. Is it about a singular typo or just multiple typos?
I do think that it is prudent to have someone else look at the document because I struggle with this myself. And I don't think a singular typo is, you know, going to be significantly problematic, but I do think it's best practice to have someone else review the document because as you know, I do it all the time when I'm so close to the content, I know what I want to say and sometimes miss that it's actually not saying that. So I'll miss a and or a the, but I'm talking about your bullets not lining up. I mean, just some real
Mhm.
egregious things, different fonts. I mean, there's some things that
Or just
we
inexcusable
see.
at this point at a professional level?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I get that. So lots of people are on LinkedIn and they'll search for jobs via LinkedIn. I've never actually gotten a job via LinkedIn. So, what makes a LinkedIn profile recruiter ready? As a recruiter, do you use LinkedIn to source talent? And what do
We
you look
do.
for? So, for people who are on LinkedIn, what should they know about making their LinkedIn profile recruiter ready?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they do have those profiles, and so we do want them to be, have a what is it called, a headline, a clear headline. So if you're a BD person, we want you to say that you are um, a BD strategist. Um, building a growth strategy from developing partnerships or, we want you to define and say, I just think people need to be clear on what it is that they are looking for, who they are, and kind of what they do. So, a nice, strong headline, being clear in the skills that you actually have and the results that you've actually accomplished. I will say this a lot of in the industry, people say that engagement and responding to things is another avenue for getting more eyeballs. I can't speak to that. I don't see that in my space. We're not looking at candidates and how they're engaging with other companies. And I'm not looking. So we have a LinkedIn profile and we do a lot of work on LinkedIn, but it is not a success factor for people that are moving through our process.
So, Don, tell me a little bit more about your space and the work that you do and where you place talent and
Yes.
what those agencies are looking for. And I know you did a lot of placement with government agencies. So, given what's happened with government, the downsizing, there are lots of people in the market right now who are looking for other opportunities. What advice or guidance would you provide to those people? You have a good sense of what some of the skill sets are for government. What advice would you give for how they would transition the work that they've done in government? Let's say if they're looking to move to the private sector.
Yeah. I think that federal staff members have a great opportunity to transition. What I know for sure is that the work that has been impacted by the cuts, it still needs to get done. So they're going to be procuring those services through a different mechanism. And so this is what I'm seeing. Now, right now, I think each agency is trying to figure out what life looks like. So a lot of agencies are, if they have cuts, they're making internal adjustments and figuring out how to realign that work. But what we're expecting is a lot of that is going to be coming through government contractors. And so, who do you think? I mean, it is a strategy we are using. We have been bidding things already. And so, I would recommend if you have specific agencies that you are interested in working, figure out who are the big government contractors that are working inside those agencies. Who has the contracts that are, that were working in the similar space that you were working, and see if there's an opportunity for you to jump onto that contract. Because here's the thing that the agencies need. They want continuity. They want people that already know and understand the space. So, even so, it has been absolutely our strategy as we have been bidding new things, looking at federal staff members that actually have boots on the ground knowledge and experience of what's going on inside that practice area. So I think that is one thing that you might want to consider. Now, there may be people that are thinking they want to get out of the federal government completely. And for in those instances, then what we're going to talk about is more on the transferable skills. So, what are the things that you accomplish there that could align into another space? So, whether that's your leadership and management, project management, I mean, there's so many different things that are not industry specific. And so, for those types of folks, I think it is taking a step back. And regrouping and figuring out what's your goal? What do you want to do? Right? And then figuring out who kind of has those opportunities, what organizations have those kinds of opportunities, start pursuing, there. So researching them, maybe grabbing coffee with someone that's in that space to just get more information and insight to determine, am I really interested in this? Or does this just sound good? Right. So I think a strategy that people might consider, and when I was, younger in my career, I used to do this all the time: informational interviews, informational discussions, just to understand different insights that people may be able to share with me about the industry. So I think those are some things that you might consider as you're trying to reposition yourself. So, but I don't want people to feel like, oh my gosh, there's nothing out there, because there is going to be a need. There continues to be a need. Me as a government contractor, I'm bidding work. RFPs are coming out. So things are happening inside the government in spite of what we're seeing, the cuts that have been made. So I don't want people to feel that it is all doom and gloom.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, even though lots of government direct hire employees might be getting cut, they're now outsourcing that same work to contractors. So if you're a contractor, brush your
Now, don't get me in
resume.
trouble over here, Michelle, but yes.
Okay. Now, uh, folks need to know that. So, guys, dust off your resume and send it to FM Talent.
Send your resume to Evan Talent.
They'll help you figure out something. They've got their, finger on the pulse of what's happening. So, Don, what's one belief or mindset shift that um, is important right now for people who are in the job market? So you talked about that even though the government has been downsizing, there might be opportunities on the contracting side. For people who have probably been full-time government employees for a long time, they've never worked on the contracting side. Is there anything that they need to know in terms of their mindset shift to sort of shift from full-time government employee to contractor, or is that a seamless transition? And there are people who've done it back and forth over time.
So I think that it should be a seamless transition, right? Because you're essentially supporting the same customer set. You're working, with the same mission. Um, I will say on the government contractor side, there is a lot more scrutiny. There is Okay, let me approach it this way. The mindset shift that one should make is to be solution oriented. The government is making the cuts and they're looking for more efficiency. I attended something yesterday and they're like, look, we are not just looking for a warm body. We are looking that for people that are problem solvers, people that understand what our pain points are and that are willing to come in and help us figure these things out. And so I think the mindset shift that people have to come in there with is looking for the opportunities. There's a term, entrepreneurial.
Right.
So people who are enterprising and always looking for ways as if they were actually running their own business. What are the things that you would want done? Looking at the issues from that kind of mindset. Um, I believe that the government is looking for organizations that can come in and help them in areas that they may not even be aware of, sometimes. Um, so you're going to have to stop with the uh, being prescribed the do this, do this, do this, do this, and come with, I saw this situation and I was thinking perhaps, we could approach it this way, or, there are three ways that you might consider any of these resonating with you. I mean, people coming trying to be a value add.
So that's a nice lead into. So, what are some recommendations for translating that government experience into these in demand competencies? What are the best ways to make those stand out and then not be seen, oh, well, maybe this person might be one of those warm bodies, so to speak,
Yeah.
so that you are showing yourself as, someone who has ideas. Now, some of those people who've worked in government before might not even want to be in this space because that whole situation was traumatizing as
Yeah.
it was. But for those who might still be interested, how do they translate those experiences on their resume and when they show up to these interviews?
Yeah, I think it is really speaking to the results that you've accomplished, right? So I think people want to know what you did that is, people are like, what's in it for me? What am I going to get if I bring you on? And so you need to be able to translate that in a way where people can see, oh, if I bring on this person, she's a creative problem solver. Oh, if I bring on this person, they were able to increase, sales or revenue by X percent, or they were able to do this data mining, or, whatever the thing is, right? But they were able to see it at a bigger picture, don't just give me tasks, right? Don't just speak to I did this and I did that and I moved the widget here and I did that. Talk to me from what is the impact that you made in the space that you were in. And I think that is where people need to get to. I think a lot of times we're just too tactical. I, recruited, for financial management. I did this. Whatever the thing is, I did some administrative support. I, did some documentation, but not speaking of the value that had overall,
Hmm.
how that's streamlined. Like, I think people need to kind of lift their, vision up and come at a higher level of what you did and how it supported the larger mission inside the organization that they were working for.
No, that's great. So Focus on results, focus on outcomes, focus on impacts. No tasks. I did this, I did that, I did. What was the value of the task that you did? Like, what did it roll up
Yes.
into in terms of change, impact,
Yes.
results for that
Yes.
organization? So, folks, if you're listening, make sure that that's how you're presenting yourself on your resume and also in interviews, right?
Yes.
So, what
Yes.
advice would you have for how to translate all of that into actual words when you come into an interview? How do you prepare some impact stories to make what's on your resume resonate with the person in front of you?
You said it. I need the story, the example, real life example of what that means when you meet with me. So, you guys will hear recruiters use situational behavioral interview styles, right? So we're constantly tell me how you would handle this, or in this scenario, how did you? And you need to be able to come with specifics. And so the things that you have on your resume, I would love for you to be able to have the story of what the impact is, to be able to walk me through that with specificity, because I tell you, you lose credibility. You lose credibility when you're not able to give details.
Heard that loud and clear. Now, Dawn, we're going into the lightning round as we get ready to wrap up, right?
Okay.
So, the first question is, if someone only does one thing after this episode, what should it be?
I think you should update your LinkedIn profile. Update your LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
Get that headline, get your LinkedIn, because we do look at it.
What's that one thing job seekers should stop doing immediately in their job search?
Um, in their job search, because I was gonna say,
Tell me what was coming to your mind. Or what should they just stop doing immediately?
yeah. So I think that folks should stop taking these opportunities for granted. If you are getting in the door, having an opportunity to speak with anyone, be prepared. Please be prepared. Please come and present yourself in the best way possible. The landscape is too competitive for you to for you to be playing games. So, take it seriously, be ready, know who you're talking to, know what you're interviewing for, know something about the organization, because we do ask you, what do you know about us? And people that come unprepared, we don't think you're serious.
Fair enough. Now, Don, as the owner of a talent agency, what's the biggest green flag you see in candidates?
I think that what I love for candidates are those that believe in themselves, those that know their value proposition, those that are unapologetic in how they're pursuing. They're not afraid or timid. I have an example of a young lady right now who is a part of our team. On paper, I didn't think that we would have really brought her on because she was still in school. We had to make some adjustments, but she believed in herself so strongly. She was unrelenting. And we brought her on part time. She sold herself of, these are the things that I could do. I get it that I can only work part time, but this is what you can expect from me. This is the value that I can offer the organization. And then this is the time that I graduate and I move full time into this role. And it has worked like clockwork. I love people who believe in themselves and are ready and are hungry. That's what you got to do to excel in this marketplace. Otherwise, the cream rises to the top. Otherwise, somebody's going to step over you and move into that role. So this is not the time to be humble. right? This is the time for you to really be able to shine and show what you can do and what you are capable of. I love that kind of bravado. I love people that are fighters and fighting for themselves. So that's a green flag for me.
I was gonna ask you about red flags, but I feel like we could be here all day with that one. Give me one quick red flag that comes to the top of mind.
Well, so because I'm interviewing for something right now, so that preparedness thing is the thing that is a red flag, and I'm going to tell you the other red flag for me. Now, so I know I said this, and I meant it in a very positive way, but there are people that come in with a level of arrogance that is just untenable. And so that I mean, well, I don't even know what to do with that.
So that being said, last lightning round question. One action anyone watching this can take today to improve their chances of getting hired.
Yeah, I think that you need to find somebody in the space that you are interested in the industry that you're interested in. I like the informational interviews. Start getting in front of people because this is how you're going to expand your network. So, and this goes without saying, the resume stuff, I think we've been really clear on what you need to do there. I think the one thing that I haven't talked as deeply about is networking. And so that's the one thing that I would encourage you to do, use your network. And I'm just going to say, like, whether you're a PMP like I am, so there's a PMI network group, or you're a CPA, there's a AICPA network group, or SHRM, or whatever your specialty is, there are associations associated with that. Network within that group. Find people that are inside the industry that you are looking to transition to and start engaging with them.
So network like your next job depends on it because it does.
Yes.
Dawn, any final last words that you want to share before we wrap up?
I just want people to be encouraged. I know that it is a really difficult time out there and we will get through this, right? Just focus on the things that you can control because there are invariably things that you cannot. How you present yourself, how you prepare, getting your documentation together, doing research on what you want, creating a game plan for what you want to do. I think all of those are things inside your control. So I would encourage you to do those things. And the other pieces, when you are consistent and intentional, I do believe that the outcomes that you're seeking will begin to avail themselves.
Well said. I couldn't add anything better. So, with that said, for those of you who are listening, if you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend and don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Transition Blueprint. Keep building your blueprint. Your next move starts now.